All right, Shalom. Praise and glory and honor to Yahweh Bashmi Shai. Double honor to the apostle of the great millstone and real well. And peace and blessings to the elect. Of another edition of GMS News and Prophecy. I have an article from the CNBC.com website. Um, and the headline is North Korea plans a show of nuclear force during the U.S. presidential election. Um, I just got this article in, so I just decided that while this this looming um, you know the looming results of this clown of a presidential election is taking place. I thought I'd do a quick video pertaining to this article. Um, while everybody's distracted with the election, and all of that. You still got the prophecies taking place. You still got things going on behind the scenes. You still got these other nations and countries making their strategic moves as the leader of the free world, so to speak, is being decided. Um, you know, um, so I'm gonna give a true insight according to the prophecies of the scriptures dealing with this matter. Um, so I'm gonna go into it. It says the United States and South Korea will stay on high alert today. And today's date is November 8, 2016. This report came out about a couple hours ago, 13 hours ago. I finally get a chance to do a video on it. It says the United States and South Korea will stay on high alert today after receiving reports that North Korea may test fire an intermediate range ballistic missile during the U.S. presidential election. And the election's still going on at the time of doing this video, so whether or not overseas they're testing these missiles, that's to be seen. All right. But it says, according to military officials, Pyongyang may want to send a message to the new U.S. president that it will not give up its nuclear and missile development programs. And that's been the sentiment of these different nations and countries for years now. Okay, whether it's North Korea, Russia, China, all right, Iran. These other nations, they don't care about America. Okay, they don't care about what's being said or done, whether they're being sanctioned or or whether they send their troops to their borders or in their waters. It doesn't matter. These other countries are hell bent, so to speak, on pushing out their military force in the world because they see America. It's not just a threat, but they see it as a waning threat. All right, and they see that the more BS that America gets itself into, they see it falling. So they're trying to they're trying to cement their spot in the world as the next superpower. You know, and they have to build their allies. So that's why these different countries are flexing their muscles. Okay, but like I said, it's all according to the scriptures and it's all according to prophecy. All right. It goes on to say the Musudan or BM-35 missile has an estimated range of 3,500 kilometers, which is enough to allow it to target the U.S. Pacific territory of Guam, an island with key strategic assets for U.S. forces. All right, it says though Western security analysts know very little for certain about the missile test expected as Americans line up at the polls, arms control experts and North Korea watchers can agree one thing is likely. A small group of Iranian observers will be there to witness the latest demonstration of North Korean ballistic missile technology. Right, so while you people are out uh, 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 casting your meaningless votes for either this clown Trump or this witch Hillary, okay, you got real world matters at hand, man. Okay. Um, let's see. It says the cozy military relationship between the Democratic People's Republic of Korea and Iran no longer receives the attention it did 2 decades ago. Because America's proud. You know, America sees these different countries and nations as nothing because Scripture talks about it puffeth at its fellows. That's what America does. So they're not paying these countries no mind, or it's not really a main news report in the media over here in America. But Trump is and Hillary is and all this BS fluff that they put on these news stations. You know, meanwhile, these other nations and countries and their leaders are making real leaps forward in their progression towards what they see as soon to be so-called world domination. Okay, but that's going to be America's downfall. All right, it's going to be America's downfall. It says when the two countries actively exchange ballistic missile technology and know-how, but the relationship may be pulled back into focus as the next U.S. presidential administration attempts to manage a tenuous uh, rapprochement with Tehran. At the same time, North Korea dials up its nuclear and ballistic missile provocations. All right, and there's a video accompanying with this article. Uh, let's see if I can play a little bit of it. It's not an ad or anything.
North Korea issues a warning the isolated states are threatening to use nuclear weapons on the U.S. if American forces mobilize against it. In an interview with NBC News, a top North Korean official says that Pyongyang would not step back as long as there's a nuclear threat from Washington, noting a preemptive nuclear strike is not something that the U.S. has a monopoly on. He added that the country has the nuclear weapons to protect itself, and it's their policy to go nuclear. North Korea also says it may carry out a 6th, 7th, or even an 8th nuclear test. The bottom line, North Korea not backing down.
All right, and that was the video. Okay, but as you can see, things is happening, man. Things is moving in the world. Okay, in North Korea, they're ready to take a preemptive strike against America. That's just World War III getting ready to take place. Okay, so you gotta be prepared for that. Let me read this. It says little exists in the way of hard evidence suggesting the two countries are currently co-developing ballistic missiles or exchanging critical nuclear technologies as per se. However, Iranian scientists and military officers have reportedly observed most of North Korea's major missile and nuclear tests over the past 20 years. So you got Iran um, and North Korea basically becoming slowly, becoming like allies, so to speak. Okay, which both are allied with Russia and China. Okay, it says here military bedfellows. Okay, it says security ties between North Korea and Iran reach back at least as far as the Iran-Iraq War in the 1980s, when North Korea supplied Iran with hundreds of Soviet-designed Scud-B and Scud-C ballistic missiles during the latter half of the decade and into the early 1990s. So you can see the North Korea, Iran, Russia um, relationship there. Okay, all right. They exchange different military technologies. It says North Korea also supplied Iran with its own medium-range no-dong missile, a scaled-up adaptation of Scud technology with an estimated 1,500 kilometer or roughly 930-mile range, first flown by North Korea in 1993. I'm just going to read through some of this article, man. Um, it's a lot to it, but I'm going to leave a link, as always, in the description. But basically, as you can see, these different countries and these different nations are teaming together to build up their military forces against America. But that's scripture, okay? That's scripture. I'm gonna read some of this here. Let me read this. It says Iran North Korea nexus. What exactly this means for the future of the U.S. All right. It says Iran nuclear accord and international efforts to curb North Korea's nuclear and ballistic missile provocations is unclear. North Korea has conducted 9 ballistic missile launches and 2 nuclear tests this year, but heightened tensions between the DPRK, which is the Democratic People's Republic of Korea, and its neighbors, as well as the United States, have taken a backseat to more outwardly visible national security issues like the campaign against the Islamic State and Russian military provocations in Syria and Eastern Europe. It says one of those ballistic missile tests of an extended range, no dong missile, took place just prior to the final U.S. presidential debate in October. How many people pay attention to that? You know, that's why you got to be watching. Always watching the prophecies. It says, but neither the test nor North Korea registered within the debate as a pressing national security issue. Like I said, America's proud. That's why. But World War III is at hand, man. Let's see here. We got Kim Jong Un. Let's see here. It says nonetheless, North Korea is drawing closer to developing working long-range intercontinental ballistic missile technology that could potentially reach the mainland United States. And that's the point, man. They're developing these missiles, man. They're pushing forward to being able to go to war with this great whore Babylon. Okay? And they're going to be successful and they're going to triumph in destroying this place. But they're not going to get that full, as the scripture says, which is even amongst these nations, although Esau is the wicked at the top, they're not going to complete their enterprise. Because Russia's not going to be in power. North Korea's not going to be in power. Iran's not going to be the next superpower. The next superpower is going to be Yahweh Shai, and the elected nation of Israel. And then the whole nation of Israel, man. Okay? The so-called Black Hispanics and Native Americans. We're going to rule over this planet. Okay? But first, this world war must take place. So all the pieces are being put in its proper place. It says, and its nuclear program continues to progress toward a miniaturized device capable of launching aboard land or submarine-based ballistic missiles. All right. Well, that's it. That's the point. Okay. While these elections are going on, North Korea plans to test their missiles. Whether they did or not is yet to be reported. But they did do a test while you people was watching Trump talk his trash on CNN and Hillary during their last presidential debate. So these things are moving, man. Okay? Prophecies don't stop because you niggas stop watching certain alternative news. Okay? And it goes for you Israelites and the truth too. Prophecies are taking place. Okay? So I'm going to read the scripture here. The book of Jeremiah chapter 50. I'm going to go down to verse 22. It says, a sound of battle is in the land and of great destruction. How is the hammer of the whole earth cut asunder and broken, which is America? How has Babylon become a desolation among the nations? It says, I have laid a snare for thee, and thou art also taken, O Babylon, and thou was not aware, because you wasn't watching. Okay? They wasn't putting these things on the news. It's not like a big major report. Okay? Which just does come from CNBC, but it's not a prick in the people's minds. Okay? That's not what they're showing on the news all day. They're showing who's getting ready to win this BS election, man. Okay? So it says, I have laid a snare for thee, and thou art also taken, O Babylon, and thou wast not aware. Thou art found and also caught, because thou hast striven against the Lord, Yahweh, by Hashem Yahushai. The Lord hath opened his armory, and hath brought forth the weapons of his indignation, which is these nuclear missiles, as you can see. It says North Korea plans a show of nuclear force during the U.S. presidential election. It says, for this is the work of the Lord, power, Yahweh Bashem Yahushai, the Lord of armies of hosts, and the land of the Chaldeans. It says, come against her from the utmost border, open her storehouses, cast her up as heaps, and destroy her utterly, let nothing of her be left. And that's what's getting ready to happen, man. These other nations, they're gearing up for their military force to go into the Persian Gulf, defend their nations, defend their assets, their allies, whether it be Iran, Russia, okay, North Korea, whoever. All right, and this World War III is going to take place, and America's will be destroyed, man. Scripture says, let nothing of her be left. All right. So, you know, it's high time for you Israelites to wake up out of sleep, man. Okay. With that, I'm going to give all praise, glory, and honor to Yahweh Bashem Yahushai, double honor to the apostle of the Great Millstone, and as always, peace and blessings to the elect. To the next news and prophecy. Shalom.